I'm going to call to order this town council meeting on April 13th, 2021, 7 p.m. If we can all please rise for the stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Ooh, get off that big screen. Okay. Proclamations and presentations. We have two proclamation requests this month. One is our annual April is Fair Housing Month. We're actually required to do this one. So I don't know if we have to vote on that one because it's a requirement.
That's correct. So hi, everybody. Mike Rosen, Town Manager. The Fair Housing Proclamation is one of the 4 fast track proclamations that when we created, the council created the process for proclamations back in June. Because fair housing is every year, we have to re-up it. It's one of the 4 that does not require a vote. So actually tonight, that one is ready for your sharing. We'll share the screen and reading it into the record. And so I can share my screen now and do that.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. There it is. That's the updated version of it.
Okay. Actually, I am going to open it on my thing because it's easier for me to read. And all right. Whereas April 21st, April 2021 marks the 53rd anniversary of the passage of Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act. And whereas fair housing is the legal right of every American and is important in ensuring all Americans a free choice of housing location limited only by one's means and or desires. And the law guarantees that housing through the United States should be made available to all citizens without regard to race, color, national origin, sex, religion, familial status, or the presence of children or disability. And this law guarantees that housing through the state of Connecticut should be made available to all citizens without regard to race, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, religion, familial status, or the presence of children, disability, marital status, sexual orientation, age, except minors, lawful source of income, veteran status, and gender or gender identity or expression. And the laws of this nation and our state seek to ensure such equality of choice for all transactions involving housing. Now, therefore, the Tallinn Town Council, on behalf of the citizens of Tallinn, proclaims April 2021 Fair Housing Month and requests that all citizens and businesses in our community reaffirm their commitment to fair housing for all and wholeheartedly recognize these rights and responsibilities throughout the year. I didn't sign this one yet, did I? I have to sign this one.
I forget if the final version is, actually, that's a good question. I'm not sure if you've signed it yet. I'll check with staff tomorrow.
Okay, I believe I have to sign it. All right, so we don't have to actually vote on that one because it's a requirement that we do that one. And Correct. Then we have a proclamation request for Earth Day. Mike? Yeah,
so we had received, I believe, 2 independent requests. So April 22nd is Earth Day. And it's, here when we're when we're engaging with our process for proclamations, we bring it to a council meeting. So this is a request for a new proclamation. We haven't done Earth Day before. And council would authorize me and the town manager staff to put together language for an Earth Day proclamation. The only problem is that the next council meeting is on April 27th, which is 5 days after Earth Day on April 22nd. So we kind of are out of line with Earth Day this year. But the good thing is that once we get it on the books that we've done it, next year we won't have to necessarily go back and do this step again. So tonight, because this is the first meeting in April and the first chance we've had since the proclamation request came in, we need council's blessing to put together the language for an Earth Day proclamation, which will be available for your review on April 27th. But for the citizens that are listening right now and tuning in, please take it upon yourselves to enjoy and appreciate Earth Day on April 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, so let's vote to see if everybody is good with a proclamation for Earth Day. Sorry, Lou, your hand's up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just inquiring, Mr. Rosen, if this is one of the recognized presidential proclamations that had previously been approved. If you're aware.
So I don't know if this is so our proclamation policy, which we don't have a policy, we have a process. Ours does not mirror the presidential proclamations. That's for signage on the green. So if we wanted, again, this is maybe another call for a future agenda item for revisiting the proclamation policy. Maybe to incorporate presidential proclamations as sort of fast tracked, but I'd have to look and see if this is a presidential proclamation, but it's not one that Tallinn has done in the past, and therefore it needs your vote tonight.
Okay, thank you very much.
May, I think we said in May we can get this on a agenda. Okay, so we're going to do a quick roundtable. If you are in agreement with doing a proclamation for Earth Day, signify by yes or no. Brenda.
Yes.
Cassandra.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Lou.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
I'm a yes. So Mike, you want to go ahead and pull the language for that one, and we'll take care of that.
Great.
All right, that gets us to 5. Petition, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. We have Steve who will be keeping time. If you have something that you would like to bring to our attention, please raise your hand. If you're on a device, if you're on the phone, it's *9. When I call on you, it is your name and address before your comments. Sophia.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Sophia Johnson, and I reside at 48 Crystal Lake Road in Tallinn. And I just wanted to, although I've been here for only a short period of time, I just wanted to acknowledge and just express my gratitude to the Tallinn Police Department, especially with the way that they quickly resolved the situation that was bad in our town, and there was no incident that caused any outrage. So I just wanted to say that right today, with how people are feeling with what happened in Minneapolis, that I can, feel their despair, but then at the same time feel happy that I'm here. And I just wanted to acknowledge and celebrate that our police force seems to be doing things the way that we would expect them to do it. That's all.
Thank you very much. We're proud of our police. They're pretty awesome. Anybody else? No. All right, let's go on to 6. We have no public hearing items. 7, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. 7A, I should say, sorry. Brenda.
Yes, Brenda Falusi. So let's see, Sustainable CT. I've seen there's going to be some progress reported, I believe, on the Wannet property, and it looks like we may be using the matching funds that have been made available to us through Sustainable CT in the very near future. So keep your eyes out for that. What's great about that program is it allows us to create a very easy to fill out grant, and by residents submitting money, donating money to that program, Sustainable CT will match it dollar for dollar up to $15,000. So it's a pretty great program. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then the tourism, we did not have a meeting this week because most of them are on vacation this week. But we are seeing more traffic to our Tallinn tourism page. I would encourage everybody who's on the town council that's on social media to please share that page and encourage your friends, family, people outside of Tallinn especially, to like and follow that page so that we can help our businesses out. Tallinn has a lot of great things to offer to people to come and visit. Obviously our trails, but we have a lot of programs starting up with our businesses and some great shopping inside of town. So anything you can do to help promote that page would be greatly appreciated. And that's it for those two.
Okay, thank you. 7B, reports of town council liaisons. I'm gonna go right back to you, Brenda.
Thank you. Land acquisition has not had a meeting. And just for background information, we only meet when it's necessary. There's no set schedule on that. Blight canceled their meeting. Let's see. Planning and zoning. Let me grab my agenda. We had a 4-hour plus meeting last night. We went to 5 after 11. We got a lot of great things done. There was 3 public hearings. There was 1 public hearing for a special permit that would, I'm sorry, it would allow a car wash facility to replace a couple of their stalls with a oil change facility. And that's on Hartford Turnpike. That was approved. And what's great about this this additional use is that it will bring more jobs to Tallinn. We're only talking a handful, but it still will bring more jobs to Tallinn. We also had a public hearing for a special permit for a change of use. Again, on Hartford Turnpike, it was a change of use from a auto repair to building supplies. And there was a couple little just items that were discussed and agreed upon for the special permit. But the owner was there. It's called Red's Building Supplies. And we're really excited to welcome him to Tolland. We have a continuation on a public hearing for pre-development site grading in the Tallinn Village area. It's the Williams, Mr. Williams is the owner, and he's looking to do some site work. You might remember that this is a parcel where we had an agreement about the $1 for the Wilbur Cross parcel. I was confused, and there was some discussion on when that property is bought by Mr. Williams, when does the close go through? From my understanding of what we had agreed upon town council a few years ago, it was that after an agreement was made on the development plan, the attorney for Mr. Williams said that he can go ahead and do a close at any time within the 5 years and just pay the $1 for the property. So that hearing is continued so that we can figure out what's going on there. And if anybody wants to help me remember how that contract went.
I don't think that was the case. I thought it was he had to have an approved plan and everything, and then he could purchase it.
Yeah, the counsel for Mr. Williams stated that if he does not have an approved plan by the end of the 5 years, he can exercise his right to close on the property for $1. And that wasn't my understanding, but I hadn't reviewed the contract, and I will admit, I spent an hour looking for the contract and couldn't find it because I kept getting interrupted. So the suggestion that may come through in that I think we need to ask for a review of that contract to find out if, which is the correct option. Because I don't want to, I don't want to go against contract, obviously. I don't know how you all are feeling about that.
Yeah, I think maybe Mike can take a look at that. And I'm pretty sure the language was clear in the contract that he had to have a fully approved plan in order to be able to execute. So.
Right, the site plan shows that he's going to start work. It was a great plan to see the pre-site development. And I'm really excited to see this moving forward. But in the unlikely event that there's not a closing on this property and reverts back to town, I had a question on what would happen with the retention bins, sediment retention in that area, and what would happen. So So that was my question. Let's see, what else happened? There's a lot going on. For new business, the Planning and Zoning gave a favorable opinion for the firehouse projects, all three of them. And they had a 1-hour meeting with Dr. Don, who they discussed 3 different zones. The TVAT, the TVAF, and the Gateway Design District, and what kind of uses they want to allow and what kind of uses they want to allow via special permit. So it was a great conversation to find out where all of the members of the Planning and Zoning, were feeling on each of those items. They had some great discussion on affordable housing, what kind of businesses should be allowed in those areas. So I'm really looking forward. It's a process they're going through. So there's been no definitive decisions made. But I'm really looking forward to what sort of changes are going to be happening to our planning and zoning. So that was really cool. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra.
No, I did, planning, PCC did not meet, sorry. I was gonna say, Permanent Celebration Committee did not meet.
No problem. Steve.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and try and get chronological order. The first meeting I went to was the Board of Education on the 24th. The majority of that discussion was around their end of year senior activities and graduation discussion, as well as kind of reflecting on the finalized budget going to referendum. On March 25th, the Conservation Commission met. A lot of their discussion items, I'm just going to kind of gloss over that and go to the one on the 8th because there's more finalized decisions. On the 8th, they finalized a forest management education session that Town Manager Rosen and the new Planning Director David Corcoran are invited to. And I believe the council has an open invitation to that on the 29th at 5:30 at the Parsiac property. I think they don't want to have a potential quorum. So if you're interested, I think you want to reach out to Jim Hutton as the Conservation Commission Chair if you're interested in attending that. But you can shoot me an email if you need their email address. On April 24th, the Commission is hosting a clean sweep. They'll be covering multiple properties, doing roadside and trail maintenance and cleanup for that. They've continued to revise geocaching policies and have that on letterhead at the planning department. They're finalizing that patronicity fundraiser, which Councillor Lucy mentioned. They were approved up to $7,500 in matching, so I think that's going to be online soon for them to start receiving funds. And there was some discussion about setting up a bank account or doing some other process. They did find out that I think Sustainable CT will cut them a flat check, so they have to worry about electronic transfers. So I believe that will go into, once the final amount is raised, directly to the Tallinn Conservation Commission so they can use those funds on the first phase of the Wannet project. Otherwise, they have several events coming up in the next couple of months for trail cleanup for the Conservation Corps. And I think that about covers it for me. Thank you.
Steve, I'm not 100% sure, but I think when they checked with Sustainable CT, when I spoke to the gentleman that was over there, I thought they kind of had a site that set up almost like a GoFundMe that they could use to collect money. So
yeah, it's called Patronicity. It's kind of like a GoFundMe style page that does fundraising that you can donate via credit card, and then at the end of the cycle, Sustainable CT, I believe it will just cut a dry check to the commission, and then they can cash it. But there's a lot of discussion back and forth about long-term planning. They do make a good amount of money from Bob Rubino's Star Party events, but they're thinking about trying to be more active and having more regular fundraisers that aren't just nightly events. And from there, have a bank account or some kind of account that they can get people to donate electronically with credit cards or PayPal or whatever to do direct wire transfers, since not everybody has cash or checks on hand these days.
Yeah, I agree. An online thing would be great. Thank you very much. That gets me to John.
WPCA did not meet, so nothing to report this week.
Thank you very much. Lou.
Thank you, Madam Chair, that the Birch Grove Building Committee We had a meeting scheduled for last week, but it ended up being canceled because we had nothing, no change orders or anything to deal with, which is a good thing. That I just got a email bomb of about 20 different attachments from JCJ in preparation for next week's meeting. So I will be looking forward to paging through several hundred pages of documentation for the plans and potential change orders. The good thing is that everything again is on track, that we are on budget, if not under budget, that we are making sure that we are doing the best that we can to make sure that the building, that the school is the best that it can be, and that it's something that we'll be truly proud of going forward. So that's all I have to offer at this point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Kurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologize for not being on camera. I'm working off my phone here. So let's see. So I was unable to make the Agricultural Commission meeting, so I'll refer you to the minutes for that. I did make the April 7th EDC meeting. Whole bunch of fun stuff going on there. New planning director David Corcoran was introduced to everybody. They got a new alternate, so now they are completely a full board, which is excellent. We had a representative from Advanced CT attend also. They started working on their 2021 goals, stuff like that. Let me see. That was pretty much the main highlights from that meeting, stuff they were doing. And then yesterday had a Parks and Recreation meeting. So they said May 1st, the lodge is going to be opened at 50%, which is kind of nice. Bruce was saying that they, as of right now, are still planning on holding Celebrate Tolland. He says the main planning phase of that gets going in June and July. So as of right now, he doesn't foresee any issues, but obviously that could change. And then there was a long discussion on how they're going to hold, if they're going to hold a summer camp, and what changes are going to be needed to be made for COVID considerations. So that was my meetings.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So the only meeting that I had since last time that we met was the one that we all had, which was the task force on mental health and substance use disorders. So we were all at that one, but for the public who were not there, we had a joint meeting with the task force, introducing everybody and kind of going over process and procedure for holding meetings and everything. In their next meeting, they'll be voting on their chair, vice chair, and secretary. And they are very excited to get started and start digging into things. So other than that, I did not have anything else. Let's see, that gets us to new business. Consideration of a resolution to authorize the town manager to complete negotiations with and execute such documents as are necessary to resolve the pending pyrrhotite claim against Kerma.
Hey, hi, everybody. Mike Rosen, town manager. Also, Rick Conti, our town attorney, is here. In your packet tonight, we had drafted up an executive summary of the settlement agreement that we are working on with CIRMA, Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Association. This is a settlement that would basically settle all present and future claims relating to pyrrhotite damage in town buildings. The town council and board of ed are both going to have to vote on this. So tonight is the town council's opportunity to do so, and then the board of ed will follow suit in the near future. The amount of $600,000 was negotiated with the CIRMA company, and that money is scheduled to be added to the Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund, or CNRE, until such further time when it will be appropriated. I don't know if the town attorney might want to just jump in. Do you want to give a quick summary, Rick, or is there anything else that I missed on that?
Good evening, everybody. So happy to give a summary. You all saw my executive summary. That represents the nuts and bolts of a settlement agreement that is largely been negotiated. We're down to one set of language that still needs to be worked out, and that has to do with section C10(2), which provides for some petition rights of voters from the town. I've been going back and forth with Mitch Harris from Dave Pitney, who's counsel for Kerma. We've also been dealing with Board of Ed counsel very closely on all of these issues, since the Board of Ed plus the town council are part of this settlement agreement. And we've been sharing information back and forth with them for weeks now. We're fairly near the end of a settlement document. And as I indicated in the summary, it's a payment of $600,000. Tallinn would relinquish all rights for any kind of claims for pyrrhotite now or in the future for any town buildings. There also would be giving up any derivative rights, which means somebody else could try to bring a claim through Tolland. All parties share, spend their own money on expenses and legal fees. There is no, we're not responsible for Kerma's fees. Kerma is not responsible for town or Board of Ed fees. This is a matter that's been negotiated for 2 years, literally. It has been a difficult negotiation. It has been a negotiation that's taken place while the underlying law has changed. In the fall of 2019, there were 3 Connecticut Supreme Court cases which came down. The liability for this type of claim is difficult, and that's why the number that you have represents that difficulty of liability. We recommend this settlement. This is something that started when Steve was the manager, through when Mike has been the manager. The town council has been apprised of this as we've gone along, as has the Board of Ed, and I recommend that you adopt this.
And just the other thing for tonight's, specifically tonight's vote, is we are asking you to approve, the resolution in the packet gives me authorization to negotiate and finalize and sign a settlement agreement with Kerma. And I built into the summary that of course, if there are any non-substantive revisions, dates, wiring instructions, things like that, or there's that one section that Rick had mentioned that's still to be negotiated. Otherwise, we're finalized. We can vote on the motion and get the deal done without having to come back to council again in the future. So that's what we're asking for your approval for tonight, please.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to ask Mike or Rick at this time? Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to thank Rick and his office and Mike and the past administration for all their work on this. It's definitely been very difficult and time consuming, but hopefully it's all worth it in the end, and appreciate all your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just directed towards Rick. Rick, just for further edification, that I'm familiar with Mitch and I'm familiar with the and his firm, as well as the case precedent that you've talked about. Now, in your opinion, I've had a chance to read your executive summary. You feel that that this is the best alternative for us, as opposed to going to litigation, possibly facing substantial fees for going forward on litigation and walking away with nothing other than just losing money on litigation fees. Is that about accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Sorry, I've started to unplug something. Anybody else? No? All right. Well, I want to, again, reiterate what everybody else said, and thank you guys. This has been a long time coming. And Rick, I don't know how many times you've had to go back and forth. So, thank you for the time you guys put into this. I think it's a good resolution for the town. And I'm very happy to see that it's going to go into the CRNE budget also. So, Steve.
All right, Steve Jones, I'd make a motion that be it resolved by the Tallinn Town Council that it hereby approves as follows. The town manager, Michael Rosen, is authorized to negotiate and sign a settlement agreement between the town of Tallinn and the town Tallinn Board of Education and the Connecticut Interlock Risk Management Agency in settlement of a claim regarding crumbling foundations caused by the presence of pyrite, and to deposit said settlement into the Capital Non-Recurring Expenditure Fund until such further time when it will be appropriated, approved by the Tallinn Town Council on April 13th, 2021.
Lou, I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
I,
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That gets us to 8.2, discussion with Trooper Eckland on the responsibilities of the resident troopers to the town.
I'll start us off. So hi, everybody. Mike Rosen, Town Manager. Every so often, it seems like almost once a year, it's been a little bit longer. It's probably been about 14 months. We invite Trooper Eckland, our Trooper First Class, to do a little presentation on some of the things that his department does in the town, working as our resident state trooper, some crime statistics updated, details on some of the things that have gone on, maybe some of the higher profile instances that we've talked about in previous meetings. So Kevin is here tonight. We do have a presentation, which I'm going to share my screen, and I'll let Kevin sort of walk through it and guide the conversation. So Kevin, I'm going to share my screen for you now. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, here we go.
Okay, and can you hear me good?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I appreciate the invite tonight. Also, I want to thank the Town Council and everyone who is in the public that's participating tonight. So I'm going to get through this presentation. Go ahead, next slide, Mike. So some of the topics that I want to discuss tonight are our community policing initiatives, community policing events, obviously police during COVID. This has been a very, trying year and a half or so for us, as well as many others. The police accountability bill, statistics, the current criminal trends in the town, additional state police services, and then kind of wrap things up with looking forward. So the current office contains myself. I am the admin resident state trooper. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kevin Eckland. I have 23 years on the job, kind of moved around a little bit, done a few different things at different troops, worked at the K-9 unit, trained dogs for many, many years, and have had the distinct pleasure of being in Tallinn for almost 5 years now. We also have Trooper First Class Jonathan Hagan in the office, along with Trooper Hoyt, Trooper Matt Burzak, and our administrative secretary is Lori Sherwood. So some of the community policing initiatives, and go ahead, Mike. We do have some of the existing ones, and of course with COVID, we had quite a bit of a challenge in completing a lot of these initiatives, but just some of them that we currently have and we're still working on. We did some active aggressor training last year or the year before for some of the businesses in town. We have opened that up to some of our churches in town. I've actually, just before COVID hit, I met with some church leaders and we started to get the ball rolling there, but unfortunately we had to kind of pause at that because of the pandemic. We also do child safety seat installations. We currently conduct or have a Facebook page, which has been a huge success for us in many different ways, obviously pushing out our community policing initiatives, but also it's led to us, with the help of the public, to solve many crimes that may have gone unsolved if we hadn't had the help of the public. And then we also have a pretty extensive senior outreach program where obviously we reach out to our seniors and assist them in programs and talk about different scams and other things that affect our seniors. So some of the new community policing initiatives, which I had introduced at my last meeting, which I believe was back in January of last year, was our Neighborhood Watch and the Citizens Academy. Go ahead, Mike. So the Neighborhood Watch program we had just kind of introduced, and again, things kind of got a little bit delayed with COVID. However, we did have one neighborhood that got up and running, and that was in the Sage Meadow neighborhood. So what it is basically is it's the old-fashioned, neighborhood watch program where I think many of us saw it as kids growing up with the little signs on the street. If you come in my neighborhood, we're all watching you, type of thing. And we wanted to kind of bring that back and bring it into Tolland and have that kind of interaction with the neighbors. So this neighborhood watch works really well if you're involved with it. Some of the neighbors will get together. They'll have a texting, with each other. They have cameras set up at their homes, and they share that information amongst each other. Also, social media outlets. In that Sage Meadow neighborhood, they did actually put a sign up that basically said, "Hey, this is a neighborhood watch, and any suspicious activity, we will be contacting the police." And the big thing is just to build that relationship with those neighbors to our office directly. And Matt Burzak in our office is that coordinator. So if anybody feels they want to get involved in this, that's his contact information right there up on that slide, and we'd be happy to take care of that for you. So the next thing we wanted to get started last year was a Citizens Academy. But again, with the pandemic and all the restrictions, that was not going to happen. I'm really hopeful that we can get that going this year. And basically, it's going to be open to Tallinn residents. It'll be a several-week, basically, course and instruction. We'll have different units that will come in and teach the folks that are in the class what we do, how the job works, and have some really good interaction with the public. So there's a lot of classroom instruction in this academy, as well as field instruction. So some of the community policing events that we were able to do and begin. So in February, just before, if you remember, the pandemic really kind of came to light in March. So in February, we were able to at least get a senior outreach event in. And in that picture, there's Trooper Nahagan to the right. And then the other gentleman there is Detective Matt Hogan. And he's our financial kind of guy when he deals with a lot of financial scams, et cetera. So he had a lot of good information to give to the seniors. And we talk about identity theft with them, fraud, phone scams, just to try to keep them obviously alert and updated on those things. So as time went along, COVID came in, obviously sometime in March or so. So again, it put a really big hold on what we could do, to interact with the public. But we did assist and help with some of the parades. The school put on the Spirit Parade, and we were more than happy to join with them and lead those parades out front, tooting the horns and the sirens and the lights and things like that, just to kind of bring a little bit of joy to some of the students and the kids in town. So we did do that. The next thing we did during the pandemic, because again, we were so restricted, we decided to take a little bit of money we had in our budget and get some gift cards for all of our seniors that are in some of the senior centers and in the homes. And we distributed those gift cards, got them to them, and they were very appreciative because we realized obviously they were really locked down and really trying to stay healthy. And we just wanted to at least extend a hand and say, hey, here we are, and stay in touch with our seniors. So that was a program we did too. We continued with our Steve Davis Memorial Scholarship, which is a $1,000 scholarship for a Tallinn High School senior in good standing that was heading off to college. So I didn't want to stop that. I felt it was important, again, to at least get the kids motivated, to write an essay. Not that they probably really wanted to write an essay, but it's a $1,000 scholarship. It's a great scholarship. Laura Meyer won it in 2020. And so it's still ongoing, and we continue to do that every year. So another thing we did during the pandemic, just to get out and talk to folks, is we did some community conversations. So myself and the resident troopers actually went right out into the woods and spoke to concerned citizens about different things, and you name it, we talked about it. A lot of it was about what was going on in the town. We had a lot of auto thefts during this time. We had a lot of car break-ins during this time. And I just felt it was important that we at least got out and discussed that with the folks and give them ideas and things that they could do to help minimize and prevent that. So it was an excellent way to meet people and to talk to people. So we did that as well. And that's just a slide that we took off our Facebook page. It's just, we had a great discussion with homeowners, and that was in the Beach Road neighborhood. And, in topics included the car break, stolen cars, and other issues happening in the town. We also assisted in the Tallinn High School graduation parade event. All of us in the office, all the troopers participated in that. Again, it was a really nice way, to show the students and, more so our seniors that obviously had to go through a tough time and didn't have all of the experiences that maybe, they could have had, but at least we were able to participate and show our support of the students. We wrapped up the year with our annual toy drive. Again, I made a decision that we were going to go forward with it. I knew we could do it safely so that everybody was safe, and we did. We did that outside like we normally do. We kept our distance, et cetera, but it was such a huge success. The outpouring from this community is amazing. We doubled our gifts. We doubled our money intake. We doubled our gift cards. It was just absolutely incredible. And I just felt it was important to do because I know, all the, the kids and the children going through difficult times. I think this was at least a nice little bright spot towards the end of the year. So here we go. So just a quick slide on, policing during during the pandemic in COVID and, what we were up against. So our department, which is the state police, obviously, and we fall under them, came out with some limitations that we had to take. And these are just a few examples of the many, many limitations that were put on us during this pandemic. And one you can see is if it was a typical call of a non-injury motor vehicle accident, normally we would always dispatch a trooper. But during COVID, it was basically, the dispatcher telling them you're going to have to exchange information as long as there were no injuries. So here's another example, a trespass. Normally, we would always dispatch a trooper to that, but because of COVID, or it could have been another disaster, but it was COVID, we asked them to report that via telephone or email to a resident trooper's office. And then just another quick example of some of the restrictions was a typical burglar alarm at a residence. We would always dispatch a trooper, and during COVID, we dispatched a trooper. So some things stayed the same depending on what it was. Obviously, anything major or significant, we would always respond. We too had to maintain socially distance, just like everyone during our job. One big thing was limited motor vehicle stops. We'll go over some statistics in a minute, and you'll see that. And that was for obvious reasons, to keep distance, keep everybody healthy. Obviously we were very vigilant. If it was something of significance and major violation, obviously we would make that stop, but we drastically limited our motor vehicle stops during that period. We had to actually reduce visits to our own troop. They didn't want us in the troop unless it was absolutely positively necessary, especially at the height of the pandemic. We had to restrict public from our office. So if we had people that needed to come and discuss maybe pistol permits, et cetera, that was all done outside. We wouldn't let anybody inside the office. And then the other big thing that we had to do, obviously, was enforce any of the governor's executive orders when it came to sizes of gatherings, et cetera. So I just put this slide up because I felt it was important because the community really came together during this. And I have to say, between the fire department, the town, and the schools and the Board of Ed, I thought our town manager did an outstanding job in coordinating all of the meetings that we had. We used to have Zoom meetings twice a week, about COVID and all the issues that were coming up. So it was just a collaborative effort with all of the departments in the town. And I just felt like that slide was important just to recognize everybody came together when it was really necessary. So the police accountability bill. So this again, you know, and I don't want to get too much in depth in this. I don't know all of the legislative details on everything. I know Councilman Luba and also the chairwoman Nuccio also is, you know, obviously knows a lot of the details and ins and outs of this. But obviously, as we all recall, in May, the incident that took place in Minneapolis, which had just an absolutely shocking wave across the entire country, and it's going to more than likely change policing forever. So some of the key points of that bill, which impacted you know, us here, even in Connecticut, with some of the legislation that's in and still being changed and altered as of today. One big one was the consent to search vehicles, which, you know, changed our policing a little bit. We can no longer go up and ask somebody to search a car, but there are other ways and means to do that. Another big part of that bill was the community policing liaison, which, and I can honestly say, I think we do a great job of that here in Tolland. I commend, you know, my staff in the office and Troop C as well for doing a great job with the community. But that was another key point of the bill. We talk, and I'm sure everybody's heard a lot about the qualified immunity, which, you know, I think initially, you know, made a lot of officers a little nervous. And I don't want to get too in depth in that bill or in that section of the bill, but it was something that I think put a little bit of a pause amongst many police across the state and quite frankly across the country. And I think once we work through that, we'll see that things are going to work out okay. There was also more training obviously added to our agency as well as many other agencies around. We are all now lumped into what they call post. So we're no different than local law enforcement. We all have to fall under the same standards now. And I know that's still evolving and a lot of that's still changing as it makes its way through the legislative process. And last, I want to just touch upon real quick, and again, this bill is pretty complex. There's a lot more parts to this bill, but these are just some key points I wanted to bring up. And that's body cameras. Our agency has had body cameras now for a couple of years, so we already had them in place prior to the Minneapolis incident. But now it's going to be a requirement across the entire state in every local town and municipality to have body cameras. So it's just something, and I think it's a good thing. I have no problem with it. I think most of us don't. So it's something that's here to stay. So statistics, if you, I don't know this, I know it's kind of small up there. I'm actually going to have to read it from my paper because it's so small. Some of the statistics, and I tried to, you know, make a comparison from of 2019 to 2020. If you go to the very far right column, that's kind of where it's all tallied up. And I don't think I have to go through everything, but I can show you some examples, like motor vehicle accident, which is up at the very top right, is 267 for the, and this by the way is Troop C statistics. This is not the town of Tolland's individual statistics, which I'll show you on the next slide. This is Troop C statistics. So there were 267 accidents back in 2019, but bear in mind, Troop C also patrols Interstate 84, and a big chunk of 84 goes through Tolland. So a lot of those numbers would be out there. And then if you look down in 2020 for accidents, there were 160. So that's a dramatic decrease from the 2 years. And I think you can probably chalk some of that up to obviously the pandemic, maybe less cars on the road. We had higher visibility on the roads because we weren't, you know, things were kind of quiet, especially through March, April, and May. So I can't be sure of that, but that might be a contributing factor to that. You can also see that criminal investigations in 2019 came in at 369, And then in 2020, we were at 184. So that's quite a bit less. One other statistic that kind of jumps out is the written infractions, which, these are motor vehicle stops where the operator gets an infraction, was 2,815 in 2019. And if you go down into 2020, it was only 714. So I think we can, attribute a lot of that to the fact that COVID was, really up and running, and we weren't making quite as many stops because of that. So the next slide just gives you an example of, now these statistics are for the Tallinn resident troopers only. And I just want people to realize we do not patrol Interstate 84, the Tallinn resident troopers. We are just in the town. Troop C handles the interstate. However, we would obviously back up a fellow trooper if they needed us. But we don't go out on the highway. So these statistics are just within the town. So I'll draw you up to the very top right-hand corner. In 2019, we had calls for service. We were at 3,068, and that's just the 4 troopers in the town. They actually went up in 2020 to 3,501. Non-reportable calls, and that's most of the non-reportable calls are trooper initiated, meaning that we're in our car, we go onto our computer, and we do a patrol check, or we do something ourselves without being dispatched. And you can see that there was also a slight increase from 1,986 to the 29,116 in 2020. Here too, traffic stops. Back in 2019, they were up to 851 for the year. And for the year in 2020, we were at 396. So again, with all the stuff that was going on, motor vehicle activity definitely went down. In most stats, generally, they fluctuate a little bit, but the trend over the last many years has kind of been the same. Okay. So pistol permits, I just put this in there just to give everybody a general idea what's going on with pistol permits. So I am the one in the office that approves or disapproves of pistol permits. And we do quite an extensive background. Not only do we do an FBI check and a state check, but I also go the extra mile, run in-house checks. If you lived in another community, I do a check with that local police department. So it's a fairly extensive check. But you can see in 2019, we had 85 permits issued. 2020, just about doubled. And now 2021, we're at 53 already. And I anticipate that to probably go well over 162. So current criminal trends, I don't think I need to really tell too many people this because you probably hear it from me quite a bit. And I try to put things up on our Facebook page quite often regarding these issues. So yes, car breaks and vehicle thefts in 2020 were a major problem. And they were a major problem statewide, not just Tolland. They were a major problem within our troop area, but they were a major problem within the entire state. So I just put these, a couple of things up on this slide. For example, we had a vehicle stolen on Woodhedge Drive that was located by our Mass State Police Department. And they had a short little pursuit, but they were able to apprehend that driver. And from there, that led to a bunch of other arrests. So it was actually a very good apprehension, a good arrest. And then the next slide was a couple of individuals believed to be involved in multiple car thefts recently in Tallinn and the surrounding area were arrested. And it was a major effort between our Eastern District Major Crime folks, the FBI, our department, our resident troopers office, and other agencies as well. And it was a huge success over 2020. So I put this picture up there because I want people to realize, and I'm sure most people know, this was the incident that involved our own resident trooper, Trooper Hoyt. And this was back in February. And around 2:30 in the afternoon, the troop received a 911 call regarding several suspects attempting to steal vehicles up in the Cosley Road area. And troopers began to respond there. And when they did, they got a second 911 call from a resident on Williams Way. That second caller reported to us that he had interrupted the burglary in progress and stated that one of the suspects actually pulled a firearm on him. So it happened right at shift change, so it couldn't have been better for us because we had the maximum amount of troopers in the area at one time. So the response was very quick. So the information went out over the air. Troopers began to respond. Trooper Hoyt, who's in our office, was driving up Old Stafford Road towards Dunhill Road, and the other vehicle jumped in his lane that was coming at him, which was the stolen car with some youths in it, and they drove right into him, and that was the result. So Kevin was, he was hurt, taken to the hospital, and I was getting phone calls, and I was trying to put my uniform on as quick as I could to get out to the scene. And Troop C responded and did a phenomenal job. They were able to grab the driver almost immediately. He was the one with the handgun, so they were able to seize that as well. The rest of the suspects fled. One of them entered a home and with people in it, and he was later apprehended. And then 3 of the other individuals went into a shed, and excuse me, the homeowner, or I think it was the son of the homeowner, did a stand-up job. He saw them go into the shed, and the shed had a lock on it. So once they got inside, he went over, put the lock on the door, and pointed the troopers to the location. So that was a fantastic job. Obviously, the community helped us. We helped the community, and I think that's, what it's all about. So. So the moral of the story is, and we keep pushing this out, lock your vehicles. Policing is more than cops in uniforms. It's a community effort. We can't do our job unless we have the community help us. And in this case, I think the community did an outstanding job by helping us in this particular case as well. So I just wanted to let everybody know, also additional state police services. So for some of those who are not familiar with the resident trooper program, resident troopers are in the town of Tallinn, but we're also supported by Troop C. Excuse me. We fall under the command of Troop C. There's also a trooper from Troop C that patrols Tolland 24/7, 365 days. So we have that additional trooper always assigned to Tolland in addition to us. So you'll always have a trooper on days, eves, and the midnight shift covering the town in conjunction with the resident troopers. So with that said, we also get the luxury of using all the assets of the state police, which includes the K-9 unit, tactical team, aviation unit, bomb unit, dive team, you name it. If I need a dog, if I need the helicopter, if I need the tactical team, it's a phone call away, and they will be here to support the town. That goes along with major crime in our detectives. We use them quite frequently. If it's a significant case, they will come in, they will assist. Sometimes they'll even take the case right over. So we have a great partnership with Troop C. They're outstanding, and we have the assets available to us. So looking forward, in 2021, obviously there's a lot of, these are just a few little things here, but there's a lot more going on. But some of the things that we want to get done in 2021 is the Citizens of Police Academy, beef up the neighborhood watch program, try to get more people involved in that, and then just maintain and continue those community relations, because I think that's extremely important. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Losing my voice. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. You can also contact me at my email or the phone number.
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. Thank you very much for everything you guys do. I can speak on behalf of myself to say that I'm extremely grateful for you guys and the work that you do in the community and everything that you guys go through every day to keep us safe. So thank you for doing a outstanding job. I'm not sure if anybody has anything they want to ask Kevin. Actually, it looks like, hold on, I do have some hands popping up. Steve.
Yeah, Steve Jones. I don't have any questions. I was gonna give Trooper Eckland some time to get some water and yeah, talk to him.
A little choked
I just
up.
wanted to say thank you for your time. You know, you thanked us for our time to be here tonight. So just appreciate the very thorough and not so much interactive but engaging presentation that helps the community as well as us understand on a high level what you all do. So just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, Steve.
Brenda.
Thank you. Again, thank you for everything you do for our community, and please pass that thanks on to everybody at Troop C. I had a couple residents send me in some questions to ask and a couple comments. A couple people said they wanted to say a huge thank you to your secretary, Lori Sherwood. They said that she is a pleasure to work with and has been very, very helpful whenever anybody has any questions, has to do some paperwork or interact with you. So please pass on that thanks for the residents to them. I had someone ask me about traffic enforcement on school properties. I don't want to get into any specific incidents, but can you speak to a little bit about how you cooperate with maybe the resource officer, or if you're called to do enforcement on properties, things like that? Just general terms, again, not speaking to any specific incidents, but that would be helpful, and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, we don't do too much enforcement on private property. It's generally on public roads, but we will work with our schools if they're having some kind of a problem. Obviously, the school resource officer, we would rather have him handle any of those incidents, and usually we like to see that taken care of within the school itself. So if there's somebody, are you talking about motor vehicle issues?
It looks like the question was about motor vehicle enforcement. It didn't, I can make assumptions, I don't want to. The question was rather vague, not very specific, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally we like the schools to kind of handle, if they can, their issues on their property. So if it is a motor vehicle complaint, maybe that can go to the principal or vice principal, and maybe they can handle it with that student in-house as opposed to us going up on the property. And again, the school resource officer would really be the one, to reach out to the individual if that individual is violating some kind of a motor vehicle law issue there. So.
Great. And the last question that someone sent me was about the safety seats. And you touched a little bit about that. Do you do events, or is it people call and schedule an appointment?
Yeah, it's probably best if they call our office to schedule an appointment, and they can actually come right to our office. And right now, Trooper Hoyt is our certified individual, and he's obviously out on leave for a little bit. So I may try to get one of the other guys certified, but they can come right to the office, call the office, and make an appointment. We can take care of that.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's all the questions I had received. Thank you so much for everything you do. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Lou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Trooper Eckland, thank you, and for everybody in your staff in your office for everything you do. You all do. For everyone out there, I would strongly encourage and I would fully endorse Trooper Eckland's efforts to get a Citizens Police Academy up and running. I think that's an outstanding thing. Having been part of a number of them across the state, I think it's something that's an outstanding opportunity for our residents to get to know our trooper's office, as well as to see some of the reality of what the officers have to deal with. And so I just I would highly endorse it. I would highly support it once you get that going, Kevin. That you know, you've got my support on that, and I think all of us. But thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Lou.
If no other counselors have any questions, I think I'm going to exercise the chairperson's right to see if there's any public that would like to have any specific questions for our trooper. And hands are going up. Look at that. Annalise here.
Is this working? Sorry, I can't see. Hi. So I have a few questions here. First of all, have the police, I haven't been following too closely with our town and the police. Have they made any type of statement against the police brutality that we are seeing across the nation, and any of their thoughts and opinions, and whether or not they stand for Black lives? I would also like to know, has there been any training, education, or steps towards reform within our troops in regards to race relations? And have any efforts been made to make our children and our community members of color feel safe when encountering police? Because that is a real issue. Thank you.
Well, first I would refer you to PIO, our PIO department, to make any kind of statements. I'm not at liberty to make a statement based on our entire agency, because I do fall under the jurisdiction of the state police. So for that first question, I would refer you to PIO, and I think they would definitely be able to assist you there. I mean, as far as race relations, I mean, in my office, I don't, again, we fall under the jurisdiction of the state police, so I have not been directed to do that. So I can't honestly say that we've done anything right here now. But again, that would have to be something that we would have to discuss with our, command staff or our lieutenant at the barracks about maybe, putting something together to do that. And I'm sorry, what was the last question?
Any efforts that have been made to make our children and community members of color feel safe when encountering the police?
I haven't done anything specifically in my office. Again, that would probably fall under the jurisdiction of the department and the barracks commander at the troop. But I haven't had any specific program established at this point right now. But I'd be more than happy to do that. Maybe that's something, if you want to reach out to me through my email or give me a call at the office and you have some, some good ideas, I'd be more than willing to listen and have that discussion with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
John Crickmore.
You're still muted, John, if you...
I was going to say, if you're talking, John,
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Hi, Trooper Eckland. I don't know if you're aware of I don't want to call it a program, but in Woodstock, I see something online. They have some kind of citizen something where they, I don't know, they patrol the street, actually patrol the streets or something. Are you aware of that? And is that something that they do with the state police?
I mean, I'm not familiar with that specifically. Do you know more details about it and what it entails?
I just saw I saw it on a Woodstock page, and it was talked about. There's, I guess, certain individuals, they volunteer their time to sort of patrol the streets of Woodstock, and if there's issues, they have contact with one of the troopers. So I didn't know if that was like something that was sanctioned by, or that was the state police work directly with this group in Woodstock, or if that's just kind of like a one-off thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, John, I mean, I'm not familiar with it, but I can certainly check in on that and see, what that entails, but I'm not familiar with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sophia Johnson.
Hello.
Hi.
I believe it's Trooper Eckland or Eckland.
Yep, you got it.
I just wanted to say again, thank you for, this report. It's, I didn't know that it was going to be so, involved. So I'm happy to have acknowledged in the beginning from what, like I said, again, there's so much that's going on and I haven't, I don't feel unsafe. My children feel safe here. So I appreciate all that you do. But I had a question that was really, I always tell people where I came from. And what they did, they had a program that was called Adopt a Cop. And it was for the 4th grade students, and they were able to adopt police officers or, representatives in law enforcement. And they would volunteer their time and engage children at the age of in 4th grade, and visit with them once a month to talk about law enforcement, to talk about their feelings with regards to law enforcement. And it was an outstanding program. And, they had a barbecue at the end of the year, but it was a great program. And I can send you details with regards to how that was handled, their Adopt a Cop program. It was excellent. Like my kids went through it. A lot of kids in the 4th grade ended up becoming police officers because of that interaction at such a young age. So I'll look to find any details where I can share that with you. I think that it would be something that would be helpful with starting that relationship early. My time, I might be aging myself, but I always saw books with images of the cop picking up the apple and being well received in a community. And I tell my kids that too. So they understand, what law enforcement is. They understand the interactions that are necessary, and they understand what they need to do to be, accountable for their actions, and, to ensure that they don't have to interact with the police. So they're law-abiding citizens. And my second point that I would like to offer is that, do you think, in your opinion, do you think that LPRs would be advantageous or beneficial in Tolland with the car theft? Like I said, from where I came, the municipality where I worked, a lot of those vehicles were criminals or, people that are looking with bad intentions didn't do it with registered vehicles. And I know that the LPR system that we put in, the village was only 5 miles, but they put in cameras at all the entry points so that it would, highlight any unregistered vehicle, unlicensed vehicle, any vehicle that would be in the system that might be on the record. Like it was crazy how many people came through. So I don't know the traffic pattern in Tallinn, but I know that there's a lot of access points. I don't know how many cars come through Tallinn, but just with me and the experience that I've had in the town that I came from, the LPRs helped a lot. Whether or not it would be, ameliorate any of the problems here or be advantageous here, I would look to your expertise and we can follow up at another time. But I just wanted to say that the main thing, going back to the Adopt a Cop, you have this different programs that you have with citizens. I think that if police officers are willing to, volunteer their time once a month and then have a barbecue with the kids at the end of the year, maybe that's something that could be adopted here too, that would help with creating a better police relations with the kids in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And I would love you to give me, contact me with that information. And that's something I think is a great idea. We do have the school resource officer program, which is fairly new here. And it has, had a big impact, I think, overall on the kids and the children. And our SRO, Brian Sawkill, does an absolute phenomenal job with the kids. He coaches, he's all part of, that whole community. So, but yes, definitely reach out to me, and I think that's a fantastic idea.
I actually kind of love that idea. I think that's great. Adopt a Cop. That's great.
And just with regard to the LPR, your opinion with whether or not you feel that it would be something that would benefit, Tallinn to have that at the entry point, so that we, I know that, there's definitely some questions that the public would want to have with, privacy and how it works. But, like I said, I came from a community that brought it in from New York. The LPRs are popping up everywhere. So I
Right.
would just like to know your opinion, your professional opinion with regards to how that would work in Tallinn and if it would be a good idea.
Well, yes, I agree with you 100%. I think it's a great idea. For example, up in Massachusetts, they have one right at the line. So as soon as you cross into Massachusetts on 84, you're hit with the LPR. We do have vehicles at the troop that have the mobile LPR units, on the car themselves. We don't have those, in Tallinn per se, but the troop does have some vehicles with LPRs. But I agree with you, an LPR system set up at the entry points. And matter of fact, I had brought that up to our commander at one point when we were really getting hit high with these thefts about trying to get a mobile LPR positioned right at the entrance from the highway at exit 68 and leave it there. So I 100% agree with you. They work. It's something we can look into. I know they're not cheap, they're very expensive. And right now I know the state, because I looked into it, we don't have any fixed LPRs. The only LPRs we have, are on actual vehicles.
Right.
Our vehicles, we do have those. But I agree with you 100%. And it is not something, I can definitely look back into and, see if we can't do something like that.
Well, just my last point, and again, thank you. I'm glad that you agree. They used the funding that was used was asset forfeiture funds from the DA's office. So to further engage, I would recommend to bring them in as well to find out if that would be helpful. I yield. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate all that.
Thank
You're
you, Cynthia. Mary Rose.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, and thank you, Trooper Eckland. Actually, I had a question related to vehicle thefts. There is a House bill, and I don't know the status of it, but that would revise the state policy on police pursuits to be able to follow car thefts. My concern, and hopefully you share it, in a small community like ours, I think a police pursuit for a motor vehicle, as important it is obviously to an individual, still a piece of property. With the small town roads that we have, the windy roads that we have, and I personally have a 13-year-old who, this is his, his probably second year of independence, being able to ride the street safely, or relatively safety. I know our roads are windy and people drive a little quick, but I'm personally afraid of a high-speed police pursuit through our type of community, through almost any community for that matter. But I was curious as to your opinion. And once again, since it is property, I know the trooper was rammed by the car theft. If it was a resident in the middle of our community that he rammed into, I don't know if we would be having a conversation on police pursuits, but I wanted to know your thoughts on that. It's a great community for kids. There's a lot of walkers, there's a lot of runners. And it just seems to be, a chance it's not worth taking for a piece of property. And I wanted to share that concern and was wondering if you could share your thoughts, if that was appropriate. Thank you.
Well, just first remember that incident back in February, there was no pursuit. In that particular incident, he was intentionally rammed. So there was no pursuit during that particular incident. Yes, I don't disagree with you. There is a fine line, and that's why I think the policy here in the state has really, over the many years, has tightened up because of that. Because there was some significant, crashes and, quite frankly, deaths as a result of that. So it's tough. There is that fine line. But you're right. It's property. It's a car. Chances are you're going to get that car back. If not, insurance is going to cover, the cost of, the damage to the car, or if you never get that car back. So I have to agree with you in some respects. It's tough for us because, the public looks at us and say, why aren't you solving these crimes? Why aren't you doing anything? And I can tell you, especially on midnight shift when a lot of this was happening, our guys would actually see the vehicle and begin to, engage and try to get the car to stop, and they're immediately terminated because of the pursuit policy not to. Even if they're out on the open highway at 2 a.m, our pursuit policy is still, no, it's not going to happen. There's to be no pursuits. So it's difficult. For us, it gets a little frustrating at times because we want to do the right thing. We want to solve crimes. We want to stop this from happening in our communities. But at the same time, we don't want people to get hurt. That's, obviously not what we want. Innocent or, the bad guy in the car. We don't want anybody to get hurt. So it's difficult. I'm being transparent and honest. It's a little frustrating, but at the same time, I think we do have to be very cautious when it comes to kind of, pursuits and things like that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Steve Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I did a quick search for, I think it was Mr. Crickmore that asked about the Woodstock Safety Patrols. I just wanted to share for Trooper Eckland's information that it looks like it's a 501c3 that's privately run. It's kind of a roving neighborhood watch that they have people that patrol neighborhoods or parts of the town and just observe and report to Troop D. So that might be, if you're planning to pursue that or learn more, probably Troop D would be the best group to go to first. And then one question I just had that came to mind is, obviously some parts of town have issues with speeding, and if residents want to request one of those speed signs or those light up signs, do they go through the resident trooper's office, or is that more of a Troop C request, or how does that process work?
No, they can contact us directly at the office, and we can get the signs out into their neighborhoods.
Okay.
And I just want to let everybody know the signs do work. We have, the data that shows it. I didn't put it in this presentation because it was kind of repetitive. I had it in last year's presentation. So for those that, are having some issues with speeding on their streets, because, we try to do the best we can to get to all of them, but those signs do work. They're very effective.
Okay, thank you.
Again, Kevin, thank you very, very much for coming and for all that you do for our community. You are a valued resource, and I absolutely appreciate having you guys here. So thank you for coming and talking to everybody. And you don't have to stay on for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to. Go have a break.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
That gets us to 8.3, consideration of a resolution to appropriate $146,695 for the Recreation Center improvements and storage project and the Capital Improvements Fund, and the setting of a public hearing thereon for April 27th, 2021. So we're just setting the public hearing, but this is the money, I believe, Mike, from the steep grant, correct?
Yeah, so hi, Mike Rosen, town manager. This is like, it feels like step number 100 for the steep grant, but
like, can we get the steep grant done?
So we have, I think, 2 more stepping hurdles here. We have tonight, like you said, we have to set the public hearing for our next meeting. That's the main ask for tonight. But just to refresh everyone's memory, back last calendar year, and again, it feels like many months ago, we had, the council had approved me to, well, first apply and then accept the steep grant once we were awarded the steep grant. That's the Small Town Economic Assistance Program, which is a program that's run through the state of Connecticut, not necessarily every year, but every couple of years, and it's sort of sporadic when it comes online. This year, the maximum award amount was $128,205. That's what we had applied for and were awarded. And specifically, we're using that money for recreation center improvements and storage needs. So specifically, it's at the recreation center when you're coming in the double doors. There's going to be an ADA accessible button now that the doors will open up. Both sets of doors will open up. They'll be on a timer. There's going to be upgrades to the gym flooring, to the bathrooms, I believe. And then also there's a storage room that's currently underutilized It's going to upgrade its, I think it's lighting, its insulation, and what we're thinking about, what we talked about using it for was to move the excess PPE that John Lytell has in the fire training facility and move it over there to this temperature controlled, climate controlled room so that it can get it out of the fire bays or wherever they may be right now and keep them clean for future needs. And then obviously if, it could be used for other things besides PPE, but that was the immediate thought, PPE and also meals ready to eat, MREs. So we applied for the STEEP grant with that as our project scope. And again, we were awarded this grant. And this step in the process now is we've been awaiting the assistance agreement in order to proceed. The town council had approved the resolution to proceed with the grant award, but we do have to have an official appropriation pursuant to the town charter. And so we are in this fiscal year, we are in excess of the maximum amount allowed for the council to approve supplemental appropriations without a public hearing. So we do have to have a public hearing. And the math on this, again, it's $128,205 from the grant. We also are kicking in $10,000 from the recreation fund, the program fund, and $8,490 that we received from Kerma, we're kicking towards this as well. So altogether, that's a total of $146,695. That's the number that's in your packet. And again, we're asking that we set the public hearing for our next meeting so that we could do the appropriation and finally get this underway, because it feels like it's a long time. Whenever I speak to John Lytell, I always joke about how long it seems like this has taken, but just a lot of paperwork and it's also pandemic, so things are moving a little bit slower, but we're finally there. We're ready to do this.
Well, we're ready to do one of the last things. All right, so at this point, we're just setting the meeting for a public hearing. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? No? All right, Steve?
All right, Steve Jones, I make a motion that the following resolution be introduced and set down for public hearing on April 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom meeting of the Tallinn Town Council. Be it resolved by the Tallinn Town Council that hereby approves as follows: consideration of a resolution appropriating $146,695 to the Capital Improvements Fund, Recreation Center Improvements and Storage Project to be funded with the Small Town Economic Assistance Program, STEEP, grant of $128,205, Recreation Program funds at $10,000, and a transfer of $8,490 from the CIP Testing Project account 205-00072-722460-2155, approved by the Tallinn Town Council on April 13th, 2021.
This is Brenda Felucci, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Sorry, my thing went off, yes.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I am an aye, so that is unanimous. Public hearing has been set for the next meeting. Thank you very much. 8.4, consideration of a resolution approving a transfer of $212,631 from the Board of Ed's audited unexpended balance as of June 30th, 2020 to the Education Reserve Fund. Mike?
Yes, hi, Mike Rosen, Town Manager. This is an annual item that we do around this time of the year after the Board of Education's audited unexpended balance is certified. And the amount this year is $212,631 to be moved into its Education Reserve Fund. Informally, people call that, I believe, the 1% fund. And so I don't know, actually, I might defer a bit. I don't know if Lisa, do you have anything you want to add on this, or I'm not sure. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is sort of a recurring item that we do every year. And this is for the fiscal year that ended last June.
The only thing I would add is that definitely the funds are available. It was discussed last year when they had funds left over that they were putting, I don't have the exact percentages, but this is one portion of it. One portion was to go to a COVID reserve fund, which you've already approved. Another portion This amount here on tonight's agenda was to go to their education reserve fund, and the balance was turned over to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year to go towards fund balance, towards this year's budget. So that was approved by the Board of Education, and they requested that, I think it was back in October, but because of the plan and the ordinance, it can't be done until after the 1st of April, which that's where we are now. Also, the ordinance does call for a review of the ordinance every 3 years, so we're pretty close to, actually, we are there to maybe start looking at it. So I assume that the town manager and Dr. Willett will be getting together to discuss it, to bring forward discussions, and then I'm sure the council and Board of Education will be involved in those, in the ordinance if there's any changes to go forward.
It's 40%. Thank you, Lisa. It was 40% for COVID, 30% for
Right.
1%, and 30% for the balance to go.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody have any questions for Mike or Lisa? No, all right, we're moving right along tonight, Steve.
All right, sure thing. So Steve Jones, I make a motion that be it resolved by the Tallinn Town Council that it hereby approves a transfer of $212,631 from the BOE's audited balance as of June 30th, 2020, pursuant to the request for these funds by the Board of Education, approved by the Tallinn Town Council on April 13th, 2021.
Lulu, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
John, we didn't get you.
Aye.
Okay, Lou?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you guys very much. Gets us to 8.5. Any appointments to vacancies on municipal boards or commissions?
Yes, we do have two new appointments on tonight's agenda.
Okay,
I don't know, if, Steve, or well, I'll name them. So in our packets, we have for Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Jennifer Caldwell, and for Permanent Celebration Committee, we have Sophia Johnson, are both looking for terms. 11/6/19 to 11/3/21 for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and Permanent Celebration Committee 11/6/19 to 11/9/22.
Great. Steve Jones, I just make a motion to approve the appointment of Jennifer Caldwell at 120 Old Stafford Road to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for the term of 11/6/19 to 11/3/2021, as well as Sophia Johnson at 48 Crystal Lake Road for the term of 11/6/19 to 11/9/2022 for the Permanent Celebration Committee.
thank you, Steve. Do I have a second?
Lulu, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, hey, no, sorry, Lou, your hand went up, then it went down. Now it's up again.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Whack-a-mole.
I'm telling you, this new Zoom setup is just horrible for me, but it's, I just want to say that I know that both Mr. Jones and I did review the documentation submitted by both candidates, that they are both very qualified, and I'm glad that they're interested in filling these open positions. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then. All those in favor? Brenda?
Aye.
Cassandra?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
I'm an aye also, so that's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome, Sophia. And welcome to anybody else. If there's anybody, I'm sorry, I saw Sophia was on here, but I don't know if the other person is on here.
Jennifer Caldwell.
I don't think she is, right? Not on tonight. That's okay though. Thank you, Jennifer. And anybody else, there are other openings. If you're interested, please contact us at vacancies@tallinn.org. We have no new old business tonight. Gets us to 10, report of the town manager.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Mike Rosen again. We do have a written report this first meeting of the month, so plenty of information in the written report that was in your packets. Couple other things to just highlight or emphasize. Myself and the chair did a proclamation presentation yesterday for Al Lawrence, who was the gentleman that we saw when Trooper Eckland was here a few moments ago. We had talked about the incident on the green, and then also the resulting chase of the suspects, and then one of them going into a person's shed. So Mr. Lawrence was pivotal in calling it in that there was a person on his property and got that person apprehended. So we did the proclamation presentation yesterday. It was very nice. We took video and took pictures, so that was great. This morning, several of us, Bev, Melody, as well as Antonetta from CAP, and a gentleman from JCJ. We did the technology equipment bid opening for the Birch Grove Primary School. There were several categories of technology equipment that were being bid out. There were 6 bidders. Not everybody bid on every packet. Some only bid on one packet, some bid on a couple of packages, but there were a total of 6 bidders. And so we're working through the selection process now to find out who the lowest qualified bidders are for everything. The coming Monday night, April 19th, we have our annual budget presentation night at 7 p.m. This year it's being held through Zoom. That's where our council chairperson takes the council version of the approved budget from last month and will put her own spin on it and present it and take questions from the public. I will be there to support, and Lisa, I'm assuming is that as well. But
Popcorn. You can sit and eat popcorn in that one.
yes, but as we march towards referendum, May 4th, that's a pretty crucial step. We also, as was mentioned earlier, the 8-24 reviews, which was another one of the steps to referendum, was satisfied last night. Planning and Zoning Commission, as was mentioned, okayed all 3 of the station improvements, including 340 and 440's demolition and rebuilding, and 140's expansion and renovations. So thank you to the PZC for giving us your blessing. April 21st, there's the next meeting of the Regional Economic Vitality Plan Group. That's the 4-town, informally we're calling it the 4-town group, between Bolton, Mansfield, Coventry, and Tolland. This is actually Tolland's turn to host. We've been rotating communities that are hosting. It's simple when you're on Zoom to just say you're hosting, but in the future, when we're back in person, whenever that may be, it'll be more fun to actually host, maybe at the lodge or at the pavilion. So that's down the line, but we're hosting. And this month I invited the EDC to join us to come on that meeting if they'd like. It's open to the public. Council, of course, may come as well, but the EDC expressed specific interest that they wanted to be there for this meeting. The last thing I just wanted to mention, it's part of the town manager's written report, but I figured I wanted to highlight this. So 2 things, both related to the town clerk's office. One is that Kathy Pagan was promoted to town clerk back in March 29th. She was the assistant town clerk, and now she's the full town clerk. And then about a week later, we find out that no excuse absentee balloting or COVID excuse absentee balloting is going to be allowed for our upcoming referendum. So Kathy and I, as well as Mike Wyman and Len Box, scrambled and figured out how the heck do we make this work with a very short time frame between April 6th and May 4th. So as we sent out information, it's in the packet, but it's also on the website. We're gonna, if you want to get your absentee ballot for referendum, you may do so immediately. You do have to apply for an absentee ballot, so you have to send in your application for the absentee ballot either through the postal mail, or you can also print out and drop off your absentee ballot application into one of the 2 boxes at Town Hall. One's in front of the library and the other's in front of the troops office there. So the 2, oh, I'm sorry, one's my mistake. One's up by Human Services, the other is by the library entrance. So there are 2 boxes, and you can drop off your application. Kathy's office will process it, mail you an absentee ballot that you can then fill out. And again, you can either mail it back in, you can drop it off at one of the ballot boxes, or you can hand deliver it to the town clerk's office up to the day prior to the referendum, so up till May 3rd. May 4th, you cannot hand deliver your absentee ballot to the town clerk on referendum day. The thought being that if you're there doing that, you might as well just go to the polls. So what you can do is drop that in the ballot box on May 4th. It'll be collected at the end of the day at 8 p.m. And so your vote will be counted that evening. I'm doing this all from memory, so I hope I'm getting this all right. So yeah, that's absentee ballots are now live for application. So you can go onto the town website, but you do have to apply for an absentee ballot. It's not automatic. And I think that's it from the town manager's report tonight.
Thank you very much. Steve?
Yeah, just one quick question for Mike, just as clarifying. Is the state or are there any additional services being provided to help assist with the use of the COVID excuse absentee balloting, or is it kind of deemed that, you know, knowing that municipal elections or budget referendums are usually lower turnout, that it'll be mostly handled in-house?
Yes, I think I understand the nature of your question. I don't believe there's any, at this moment, there's no excess resources we're receiving. So we kind of planned it out, Steve, and we thought about, you know, how many absentee ballots do we normally receive on a given year, and what could potentially happen this year? Is it going to triple? Is it going to quadruple? So we've run a few scenarios. Kathy and Sue, who's currently working in the department, to sort of cover until we can backfill the assistant town clerk. We think we can do it with in-house resources. We have left the door open, though, if we should need to, if we find ourselves overwhelmed. We do have the two folks who helped us in the November elections on standby, where we could go to them and ask them if they'd want to take over some part-time hours. My understanding is that we would be on the hook for paying that. There's no additional state funding to do anything yet, but you know, it's one of the things where we got to provide the best service to the public, and we think we can. As I had actually sent an email to both the chair and the vice chair, kind of a little bit frantically saying, "Oh my gosh," but we're going to handle it. We're going to get it done.
Okay, great. And in terms of the volunteers needed, is there going to be? I know that there was obviously a dedicated building last year because it was a presidential election, but do you think the registrar's office is going to need additional volunteers for absentee counting, or do they kind of expect to have the same, you know, volunteers they usually have every year for a referendum, maybe get shuffled around to do different tasks, or will it be handled by the clerk's office for counting?
I don't have the answer to that. I probably would have to get you. I don't know if the registrars anticipate any additional volunteers. I'd have to just double check their report. I don't think they mentioned that. But I can get back to you on that.
Okay, and then just one final question. This, again, I can reach out to the registrars if you don't have the answer. Do they indicate whether or not they are okay with their levels of PPE and other needed items for the referendum? I assume they had a great amount last year, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we anticipate that we have enough stockpile to make it work, and probably, if anything, the absentee balloting will help relieve some of the in-person nature of this. So fewer people are likely to probably show up and vote in person because of this no excuse absentee balloting. So there may be less need to have extra PPE on hand to give out masks or whatever, gloves, if that's part of it too. But I think all around it's going to be interesting, but we'll like I said, we'll get it done.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Brenda?
Thank you. Brenda Fusi. So, Mr. Rosen, I am going to push a little bit on the tourism and suggest that even though people can't come to Tolland, maybe you can do a background of something that you would rather, you know, if you were having a meeting that it could be at Crandall, maybe you can do a photo background on your video feed to highlight some of the features of our town that we'd like to share with the 4 towns to attract tourism into our community. So that's my little plug.
That's a nice idea. Yeah, that's a nice idea. I think we can share. It's kind of an ongoing
background
discussion. Well, I see you have one there. Yeah, why not? That sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Gets us to 11, appointment of minutes.
Sorry about that. Just pulling up the packet, switching from one packet to another. Steve Jones, I make a motion to approve the minutes as outlined in 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3.
Brenda Flucy, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda,
Aye.
Cassandra,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
I am an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you very much. 12, correspondence to council.
Hello. We didn't have as much correspondence as in recent history. We had one email from a resident asking about budget questions, and I believe it was answered thoroughly by the town manager. We were afforded an email about opportunities on tourism that, that we may be missing out on. We were forwarded a couple emails by a resident about global warming and about fluoride warning. And we received one email about the Earth Day request, and that was covered. And that's all I saw. So besides all of the junk email we received, we're so appreciative of all that.
You don't like Kurt de Jong?
Klaus does.
Klaus.
Yes.
Klaus.
Well,
Hey, that I noticed though, it wasn't just wine this time. There was a different one
right.
that came under Klaus.
Yes. And I want to just address that no Tallinn employee or elected representative will ever send an email to anybody soliciting cash or
gift
cards or checks or anything like that of any of our residents. So if you do get an email that is someone else disguising themselves as us, it's a phishing scam. Please do not respond. You can call the town hall and let them know it happened. Please do not forward the email on. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Brenda. Okay, that gets to 13, chairperson's report. So I don't have a whole lot tonight. What I do have is, if everybody has not heard, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but in celebration of Earth Day this year, our Conservation Commission is hosting a clean sweep day on Saturday, April 24th from 9 to 10, although you're welcome to stay longer. And there are 7 different properties that they're going to be meeting and cleaning up. So we have a list of those 7 properties. They also have significant other events that are happening from now through June. If you look up on their Facebook page and their conservation trail stuff, there's significant amount of events if you want to go and help clean up the trails or learn about the hiking and stuff like that in town. So if you have a weekend and you want to hang out with your kids and do something fun, there is plenty of opportunity out there to go and do something. I will be at the trail cleanup on the 24th also. So if anybody else wants to come and hang out, you can contact us or look it up on Facebook. And I think that's about all that I have for this week. That gets us down to communications and petitions from council persons. Do we have any this week? Right. Cassandra's raising her hand too. So Brenda.
Yes, thank you. I would like to, some of this we just sort of discussed. One of the things is when we take a look at our ordinances, we had discussed on a couple of the most recent ones, if we wanted to have any language in case of an emergency, if we would need to address those. And I think what this public health emergency has shown is that there may be an opportunity that we should take advantage of adding language that says in case of a declared emergency or disaster, I'm sorry, we're calling them emergencies now, right? That we may want to waive certain restrictions in some of our policies, especially when it comes to budgetary or monetary items. for example, FEMA is usually there for us in case of an emergency, but the current situation we're in, FEMA's very much strapped nationwide. So we might want to look at like maybe the 1% fund, deciding that on a majority rule or vote by the town council that we waive the restrictions for it just being for technology, et cetera, that we may want to make some changes there. I think it's worth a discussion. I also wanted to encourage us to take a look at the town communications to residents. I think we may be missing opportunities to ensure that they're receiving all the information, and I'd love to take an inventory of how we communicate with our residents. If we feel it's effective, if there's anything that we can do that would help communicate more effectively with them. And I may be stealing Mr. Jones's thunder on this, but I wanted to find out if there was an update on where we stand with updating Ordinance 60. So.
Thank you. I actually was asking about that one too, because I know they were doing some work, don't mind the dogs, holy moly, to look at changes for that. So that's definitely on the list of things to bring back post April, the budget timeframe. Thank you for bringing it up again. Steve.
I'll let Councilor York go next because they were raising their hand before me. So.
You sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Brenda. So I'm going to use this time here to announce that this is going to be my last town council meeting. So I quickly and unexpectedly sold my house. I actually had an offer on my house without me actually listing it or showing it. It was kind of crazy. And I'm relocating to Stafford. I'm actually in Stafford at the moment. And I just want to say it's been a very big pleasure to be part of town council. I've now been part of town council officially for 1 year. Unfortunately, it was a very rocky year for me and a very transformative year for me, but it's now come time for me to say goodbye to Tolland as my home. I want to thank the town of Tolland for accepting me here to represent their wants and needs, and the town government for being a supportive, inspiring, and an excellent example of great leadership. Mike, you've been a great town manager, and I hope other town managers see that in you and aspire to be just as great as you are. Tammy, you're an outstanding town council chair, and I'm so happy that you're in the role you're in. You amaze me with your abilities and your intelligence, and I hope one day to be as strong, as effective as you are in this leadership role and every other leadership position you hold. And Lou, Kurt, and John, you've been incredible colleagues. We've spent many hours together addressing and attending to the needs of Tolland, and I'm so proud to be part of this outstanding Republican team. And I look forward to all the good that you guys are going to do going forward. Steve and Brenda, thank you for caring so much for Tolland. The amount of time you both put into taking care of our town and helping it to get better every day is very invaluable. I hope all the town residents see that, and I appreciate and understand the sacrifices you both make to serve in this role on town council and to make Tolland a better place. Overall, without belaboring this resignation too much, it's been an honor to serve as a town council member. I've learned so much, more than anyone would have ever expected to learn, and I'm grateful for this experience, and I'll take what I've learned with me in the future in all my endeavors. So thank you all very much, and I appreciate my time on town council.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. Thank you for jumping right in and volunteering and putting your heart into being on the town council. You brought a really valued perspective. You brought a lot to the table, and you made us think a lot. So I can't thank you enough. You've had a positive impact on my life also, and I appreciate you, not just as a council woman, but also as a friend. So, I know that you'll still keep in touch, even if you're one town over, but thank you so much for everything that you have done for our town, and sad that it's your last meeting, but I know
it's a boot camp kicking, you know where to go.
Unfortunately, you scare me.
You came to that one class and you never came back.
All right. Okay.
She came once, so that's all that matters.
I'm gonna start doing yoga.
Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. I will be sad to not have you in that seat, but I know you are off to do wonderful things. Steve?
Yeah, so I'll start with thanking Councilor York for their honesty, their integrity, and their service to the council, and consider you a friend and obviously someone to reach out to if there's any issues. And you have plenty of friends in town. You know, again, it's only one town away, so expecting to see you on that mountain bike park when they officially do their ribbon cutting and on Crandall's and anywhere else in town. And I know you've got some friends in the community that you can rely on when you need it. So just wanted to thank you for that. And then actually sort of just to try and keep some good vibes going, I mentioned it at our executive session, but I did want to wish Mike Rosen a happy belated birthday, which was yesterday. So, you know, obviously it's tough in the pandemic to celebrate, but, you know, we're happy to have you here and you made it through another year around the world. So here's to another.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mike. Every time I go to Hops, I want to find your cup and I want to put something in it. I just want to leave you like little trinkets in your cup. I wonder if they
Just leave the beer.
I wonder if they would think that was weird. You know? Trinkets for Mike. All right, thank you guys. Thank you everybody there. That gets us to number 15, public listed participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand on the device, or if you're on the phone, it's *9. When I call on you, please state your name and address for the record. And Sophia.
Sophia Johnson, again from 48 Crystal Lake Road. And I said it in my first meeting and
Oh, we lost you. Oh, she froze.
Oh, I think she froze.
If she pops back. Oh, are you back?
Oh, yep, I'm back. I'm sorry.
We couldn't hear
Oh,
you,
that's
yeah.
right. You froze.
I'm
First.
sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
if you want to restart the tape, you can start from the beginning. We'll restart the timer.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Being able to come into the town brand new and feel welcome, feeling like I'm part of a team already. Again, you know, people will say, although I'm not one to say being African American, that it has stopped me from any kind of opportunity because I'm just tenacious. But I can say that coming into a new town, coming in and just putting myself out there and then going directly for an opportunity as a volunteer and submitting my resume and being welcomed with open arms it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I'm grateful to Steve and to Lou for, you know, taking the consideration and looking through and everyone that voted. And to all my Tollanders, I got you. I got you. And I have so many ideas with post-COVID life and how we can interact with each other and do things that are fun. So I'm looking forward to serving my community, and thank you again.
Thank you, Sophia. Anybody else? I don't see anybody. All right, that gets us to number 16, Steve.
All right, Steve Jones, I make a motion to adjourn at 8:58 p.m.
Brenda Felicity,
Brenda's sneezing. Sorry. No, it's okay. I was watching you and I was like, I'm waiting for.
I'm going to give my yay now. So
okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Brenda was a yes. Cassandra, your
Yes.
last time. Yes.
Yep.
Steve.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Lou.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
I'm an aye. That is unanimous. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Happy birthday, Mike.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
All right.